Hello and welcome to the Queer Sober Social podcast. We are so excited to be here. We are your chill social group of LGBTQIA+ folks who want to do more with their lives than just drinking.
Whether you identify as in recovery, sober curious, or just wanted to be sober while you're listening in, we're really happy that you're here.
Since this is our first episode, we wanted to start off by introducing ourselves and what we're all about.
So, without further ado, let's get this started.
All right. So who are we? I will go first, and my name is Carly Novoselsky, and my pronouns are she and her. I was born and raised in the Chicago suburbs, and I refer to myself as a former wild child turned serenity seeker. And you will find out more as you get to know me. I identify as a queer femme, and I also identify as in recovery from alcohol and drug addiction. I am a huge foodie and love checking out all the restaurants in Chicago. And I'm also a former service worker from the hospitality industry turned mental health and substance abuse counselor. I wanted to use my experience of getting sober to ensure that no one else has to feel the way that I felt. And that is part of the reason why we're here today.
Thanks, Carly. Hi, everybody. My name is Rajiv Khattar. My pronouns are he, him. I was also born and raised in the Chicago suburbs. But unlike Carly, I feel like I'm more just an introvert and a little bit more behind the scenes for a lot of things. I don't happen to use the label sober, but functionally I am sober, which, I mean, so be it. It's something that it works for me. So, and I'm happy to be around everybody else who doesn't happen to drink or do drugs at the time, which is nice. On this podcast, you can probably expect me to put on my business hat because I work in business. I work as a consultant during the day and the night and some weekends. And really just try to give you a little bit of a perspective coming from this at a slightly different angle. But you can see that both Carly and I are just different people a little bit, and you'll definitely come to see that in future episodes or as you get to learn more about us. But it's still cool because we're able to work together and we're putting on something like this for you. So you'll get a number of different perspectives no matter where you're coming from.
Exactly. And that is why we're super excited to be here and putting this on to share the stories that we really needed to hear when we were first coming out, when we were first figuring out sobriety and just the kind of life that we wanted to live as adults. So telling those stories now and really hoping to put the word out there for anyone else who needs to hear it.
So,
So,
Carly, I mean,
yeah.
how would you even describe what the Queer Sober Social podcast really is all about?
Well, we are queer, and we use the word queer as an umbrella term for a reclamation of what was used to be a slur against queer people. And we're kind of just taking it now and wearing it as a badge of honor. And that is why we call ourselves queer. And, the LGBT group is who we are here for, but everybody is welcome. We welcome allies. We welcome anyone that's just wanting to learn more about what we're all about and all the different identities that the members in our group and the people have on our podcast will hold.
Awesome. Well, another part of the Queer Sober Social podcast is that we're also sober. And there are a lot of places for people who are in some sort of recovery or in some sort of step type program or some sort of thing like that. We're trying to bring together just a lot of like-minded people who are just trying to be sober or just who happen to be sober or who might be sober curious, like we mentioned before. And so this isn't necessarily meant to just focus on recovery, but some people we meet will probably be in recovery. Some people that we meet won't be. And I think that that's great because it still is allowing for some of that perspective to come into mind. And it really doesn't matter if you don't drink often or you've never drank or even if you are in recovery or you just don't want to drink right now, like while you're listening to us. That's great. And you're all welcome.
Absolutely. And one thing that we love to say is we are not the sober police. We are not the queer police. Whatever you're doing right now, whatever place you are in your life, you are exactly where you need to be. You are sober enough to be listening to this podcast. You are queer enough and you are enough. So we cannot reiterate that enough. Finally, the last piece of our puzzle for the Queer Sober Social podcast is that we are social. We are a supportive group in a community that has formed over time, but we don't consider ourselves a recovery group necessarily. But we're always happy to give out referrals and network for references if you need it. but we are more focused on, just how like becoming friends and kicking back and getting to know each other and what our lives look like as sober and queer people in the world, because we have as plenty problems as everybody else does, and it doesn't change. But what makes us different is that, we want to bring on a diverse group of people that have different viewpoints of the world, that have had different experiences, and really showcase those amazing stories of all the people that have come together in this group.
For sure. And so the other piece of this is, of course, the podcast. So what should you really expect? Because this is our first episode, I wanted to make sure we kind of set up how we're actually going about doing this, and what you can expect, either if you're tuning in via Twitch or YouTube, or you're listening on your favorite podcast streaming platform. Our goal is to have some sort of podcast come out every other week. We have jobs, so unfortunately, this is not a full-time thing. And whenever we can, we're trying to get some guests who come from all over the place, different walks of life, different backgrounds, different experiences, because even though the intersection of queer and sober may feel small, it's actually bigger than you think. And we want to make sure that we're providing you a little bit more of that perspective of just how big it really is.
Absolutely. So we'll be shooting to make our podcast around 30 minutes long. And as soon as we are done, it will be available on all major podcast platforms. And we're super excited to get this content out into the world. And so, as you can all see, if you're watching us, this is also a video podcast. So, hello to everyone that is here, and thank you so much for being here. We will stream on Saturdays from 4 to 5:30 on YouTube and Twitch, as Rajiv just said. And be sure to check us out at Queer Sober Social on all platforms and follow us.
Be sure to follow us.
Yes.
I think one thing that I would also like to mention is that if you are looking on Twitch right now, you can actually click that follow button right there, click the heart, and you will be following us. So the next time that we go live, you'll be able to see us. I will also mention that anytime that you do follow, something cool will happen. Today happens to be Halloween. It happens to be our first time. And so somebody who ends up subscribing might end up showing up magically on our channel. So
Yes.
thank you very much if you happen to subscribe during this, and thank you very much if you've subscribed before or even after this. It doesn't matter whether you're subscribing on any of the video platforms or on the audio ones. Anything you do is helpful, and we'd love for you to make sure that you don't miss a single episode that we create.
That's right. So, Rajiv, who is this podcast for?
So I know that we mentioned that we're a queer, sober social group, but really, it doesn't really. It's for everybody in a lot of ways. It's all sorts of identities, but more specifically, we are focusing on the queer and sober community. And it really doesn't matter what intersectionalities you hold. So what cultural background you comes from, what you come from, what your gender identity is, what your sexuality is, how you identify in terms of sobriety, to what level of sobriety you feel like you are, doesn't really matter all that much, because we're, again, just trying to make sure we're coming all together to talk. Um, and that's the idea, is if you just want to break from some of the drug culture or some of the drinking culture or some of the other culture that tends to be a little prevalent in the LGBTQ community, you'll like this podcast. I guarantee it.
That's right. I mean, I can't go a day without seeing alcohol ads, and our society is just steeped in this stuff. So, as a nice getaway from all of that, definitely our podcast is the place to be. And like Rajiv said, it doesn't matter if you identify as in recovery or if you're just sober curious or just even questioning your identity. This is the place to be because we are non judgmental. We are so open to everything. So, it's really, really a safe place to come and just be yourself and discover and explore who that is.
And I think
Yeah,
another important thing is, like, we've been there. So if
yes,
you're in
we
the midst of
have.
it, like, you have two people who have at least not maybe fully figured it out, but are not at the beginning of the journey at least.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's no shame here and no judgment. So this is definitely a podcast that I needed when I was figuring all this stuff out. So we are going to be making that content readily available to whoever else out there is at the beginning of their journey, maybe the middle, maybe been doing this for a long time and you can relate to us. So we're just super, super excited to be getting queer sober like content out there that you all are needing. So like Rajiv said, it's a way bigger intersection than most people are aware. And if you fall into that, hello, hey, welcome. You are not alone. And we're so happy that you're listening. So, a few other things we wanted to cover today are kind of piggybacking off what we were just talking about, kind of our code of conduct or the ideals that we like to operate from. We like to say that we are a sex positive podcast and group. We accept all forms of sex, sexuality, gender expressions, all that fun stuff. And we do not tolerate anything such as kink shaming, slut shaming, or relationship shaming. All lifestyles, everything is welcome here. We do not yuck somebody else's yum. That is not our job. So just know that this is we like to keep this a safe space and a non-judgmental place, and there's no need for shame or any of that stuff. Guilt, not here. And of course, we are only speaking from our own experiences. What's worked well for us might not always work well for you. So you are the expert of your own life, and we are the expert of ours. We are just here to share our stories and the stories of others who can provide unique viewpoints of the intersectionality of queerness and sobriety. And lastly, we definitely encourage questions in our live chat, but please be respectful of one another. And as I said, we'd like to make this a safe space for ourselves, our guests, and all of our followers as well. So,
Thank you again for
and
everybody who's joining in via chat. If you are on Twitch, you do have to at least accept these rules that we just talked through. You can actually just click on it and then you'll be able to chat. And if you are a follower, thank you again for following. Um, so we really appreciate you no matter where you're coming from. One thing I'd like to actually shift over to, Carly, was just maybe a little bit about how the Queer Sober Social organization really came about. Because it's something that I happened to end up just joining a little bit later, but I know that you were part of the start of it.
I was so my two good friends, Holly and Phoebe, and I all met. We were part of a different sober women's group, and through that group, we kind of, the three of us became friends. And Holly and Phoebe were the first to start Queer Sober Social because they wanted to know where all the other people like them were in the city because they knew they existed, but there wasn't a place for them to physically go and get together and find these people besides like few and far between on dating apps. Like there was not the place where we could all just come together. So they created it and had two in-person events back in January and February, and they were in person pre-COVID. So there was quite the turnout. I was at both of those events, and they were fantastic. There was so much energy in the room. It was such a fun night, both nights. And it was just truly amazing. There was over 100 people at these events that came out of the woodwork in the freezing months of Chicago to come be with their queer, sober, and people and make new friends. And um, I knew immediately that I wanted to be a part of this because these are my people, and these are the rooms that I want to be in. And things kind of took a shift with COVID happening. There was the third event planned the week that everything shut down.
I remember that.
So, yes, yes, we had to shift things to the online format. And, we've just continued to stay online since then, having weekly queer sober social events over Zoom. And, we've been doing that for the past 6 months, weekly, every week. So, just being the staple for queer and sober people. And because it's online, anybody and everyone can join from all over the world, all over the states. So it's been really, really fun and such a privilege to have stepped up and be moderating the group every week. And we have really formed this beautiful community that was really unexpected when this all started to go down at the beginning of this year with COVID. So I like to say that the Queer Sober Social group has been my longest lasting relationship and my healthiest relationship throughout this whole pandemic. And I really don't know what I would do without everyone because it has been so instrumental in, just continuing to evolve and talk about the topics that, only queer and sober people will understand. And through that, we get to meet amazing people like yourself.
And that's great. I mean, I happened to join, I think it was the second live event, maybe in February, if that sounds right,
Mhm.
of this year. So like, yes, in case you are not aware, because we stream 4 to 5:30, that is in Central Time. We are in Chicago, and February is very cold, no matter what year. So the fact that like it was packed because this is before everything was shutting down, like we said, and this is a time where just people were able to come together. Like I don't remember, like you guys booked like an art studio or something like that, right? Just there was like a popcorn machine. There was like so much that you guys had put in together, and the fact that we filled that place in like pretty much for the entire night. I remember when everybody was leaving when we had to shut down, it was still pretty full. And what was nice also that I really liked about it was just the fact it was super actually diverse and actually all the letters of the LGBTQ alphabet. Like you will find people who identify all over the spectrum, which is great. Because a lot of times, at least me personally, when I've attended a lot of queer events or LGBT type events, it tends to be a little bit more focused either on gay men, or it'll tend to be all women, or it'll just kind of be something that's open to everybody, but not everybody really shows up. And that's what I really, really like about this is that everybody does show up, and it is a place for everybody. So, I mean, I've really appreciated it, all the work that you guys have put out there to get this started. And that's why I wanted to make sure that we're sharing this with everybody else as well. People like you who are either listening in or watching.
Absolutely. I mean, there are so many people out there, like you said, that I would have never met if it wasn't for this group, if it wasn't for the in-person events, moved to the online events. And we have really have a strong community going here and people that come back that tell their stories. And, over the past few months that we've been really getting to know each other, like these meetups that we have, even though they're virtual, like they are very intimate, they are
Hmm.
very vulnerable. We are talking about hard hitting real stuff. And I mean, I love it. It's so fun. I feel like I'm really meeting who I'm supposed to be meeting, my chosen family that like I've always dreamed of having. Like I always would wonder like who are these people and like where are they finding like their people like that they get along with that are in their lives that are supporting them ride or dies, like where are they at? And it's through this group that I know that I've already found so many great people that I will be friends with for the rest of my life.
And I think that that's amazing because a lot of times when you're actually looking at the general queer community or the general sober community, it tends to be a little bit insular, if that makes any sense. Like it's people who just tend to know each other already, or it tends to be a little bit cliquish. And so what we're trying to do is just kind of bust that open, and anybody and everybody can come along. Anybody and everybody can come together like this. And the fact that
Totally.
such a cool group has already showed up, like virtually, like we built this from like people who are just clicking on a Zoom button to come on, and they just join every week, and something like this came about. Like that to me is unheard of and is truly amazing. So first of all, kudos to you, Phoebe and Holly, for like having the idea and getting it started. I know for me at least, I had just finished grad school, and had just restarted work when I found out about this. And when I was kind of like looking at it, I was feeling really burnt out from just the queer community generally because every single event that I went to was like at a bar, or every single event that I went to was just like just for guys, or something like that, or only guys ended up showing up. And so I was like, yeah, I mean, cool. It's great. Like we have a space that's really important. But what I was trying to look for was something more. And when I saw something like this show up, I was stunned because I mean, I had asked a friend of mine who happens to be pretty plugged into the queer community, and she was telling me that there are some like um, basically like sober bars that were opening up on the East Coast, and I think in LA and some places like that. And so there was like the inklings of a community like this to get started. And so it definitely showed some sort of promise or some sort of desire. And then showing up to that event in February and seeing like 100 something people, not all of whom I'm sure would identify as sober. Like maybe they just weren't drinking for that day. Maybe they just weren't drinking just for that event or something, or they were doing like a sober February or sober January or whatever. Um, but the fact is that like people were looking for a place, and I mean, this is able to provide that space for people. So similarly, like here on Twitch, on YouTube, if you're listening to podcasts, you're going to see a lot of people who talk about like either alcohol or drugs or whatever in some sort of way in terms of just, I don't know, like it's a part of their daily lives and what they actually do. Uh, I think what we're providing is just like an alternative for that, right? So it's a great
Absolutely.
place.
I also think too that in the recovery community, like, yes, like is great. Like I needed a lot of resources and support in the beginning, but like once you are off and going and being sober is the norm, like you kind of need a break from the recovery spaces and just being so entrenched in talking about recovery, talking about not drinking. Like there is more to life after you get sober, and like it's really exciting to talk about the new things that are going on, and like maybe it doesn't have to relate back to like the fact that you stopped drinking. Like yes, it's amazing, like save your damn life, like do it, but there's like then great things start to happen after that, and it's like it's a little hard to go into recovery spaces and share that stuff. So we love to talk about the wins. We love to talk about like what's on the horizon, the new great ideas that everyone has, and just kind of like it's just a refreshing atmosphere to be able to just show up and know that everybody has this common thread. Like we already have so much in common just knowing that we're in this group in this room because we're interested in being sober for this evening and we identify somehow in the LGBT community. So those two big commonalities alone just allow for everybody to kind of relax and just really be friendly and open and like not fearful of like meeting new people. And it's been just fantastic, honestly. Like I know it's so daunting to click on a Zoom or to show up to a place where you don't know anybody, but like I said, if you just know that you have these two major life things in common, you will find plenty to talk about. And that's the other thing I love about us too, is that we don't always have to talk about the fact that we are in this community or sober. Like that's obviously the link that connects all of us, and that's amazing. And obviously it's why we're here having the Queer Sober Social, but we also get to talk about so much more, like everything else in the world that is going on in our lives that is happening because, you know, we're us, we're unique. And yes, being queer and being sober is a part of our identity, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the most interesting thing about us. And there's so many more facets to one's personality and their makeup that makes them who they are. And we're here to like talk about that and uncover that and like connect it back to like who they are and how it connects back to sobriety and queerness. But it doesn't have to be the end all be all of everything of who you are. Like we understand that, and we are here to learn more about you and what how you came to be.
And I think that's what I really like about the fact that this is a queer sober social group. Like it's kind of an emphasis on that social piece because I mean, the queer and the sober stuff, as Carly said, like it's important. It's something that does bind us. It is something that ties us all together. But the social piece is really interesting as well because it is everything else. It's the how do you figure out dating when you're sober? It's the like and also queer or like are you questioning your queer identity? Like there are as Carly was saying, there's so many ideas that have just the both of us have even been talking about what might we want to talk about on something like this. Of course, if you are listening live right now and you happen to have some ideas, feel free to throw them in the chat. We will definitely take a look. We will definitely add them to our list of episodes. If you're listening on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts or something like that, you can actually find our anchor page and use that to send us a voice message. And in future episodes, we were hoping to maybe just answer some questions based on people's voice messages, which would be really cool. And so there's tons of ideas that we have that can touch any three of those pieces, whether it's queer, whether it's sober, whether it's social. We're going to find something and talk about it.
Yes, I love the voice message idea. And if you're not keen to that, definitely shoot us an email. You can reach out to us at queersobersocial@gmail.com. Send us your anonymous stories, anonymous questions. We would love to read and hear about them on the podcast. So reach out to us. Let us know you're here. Let us know you're listening because we know you're out there. So we want this to be the hub of all things queer, sober, and social.
Awesome. Well, I think that about wraps up today's episode. So just make sure that you're subscribing. Again, if you're on Twitch, you can make sure to hit that follow button. There we go. Pops up like that. If you're on YouTube, you can also follow. I think you can just subscribe to our channel and you'll be able to follow us like that. Um, And again, if you happen to be following right now, you'll get a nice ghostly thing that pops up right above us. But definitely make sure to
Ooh.
subscribe. Yeah, exactly. Just make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next episode.
Yes, and you can find our podcast on all major platforms, and the video podcast will be live at twitch.tv. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Queer Sober Social Podcast, and take care. Have a good night.
Alrighty, everybody. Oh no, the chat didn't work. Let's try reloading that. Well, hopefully we're right back. This is not part of the podcast. What we're trying to do is just allow people who were sticking around, people who might be as part of our Patreon page, just to get a little bit of an exclusive look behind the scenes, and kind of see a little bit less of the more produced side of this. Because the podcast itself is definitely going to be thrown onto major streaming platforms, and major podcasting platforms. But because we want to make sure that we have a time from 4 to 5:30, we wanted to make sure that we had some time just to be able to chat with people who are here live, off the cuff, extemporaneously, just figure out a little bit more about who you are, um, joining us here. And definitely, what I'm trying to do is fix the chat so we can see you live. I can see you because I happen to have the chat on the right side, but anybody else who might be on chat, you can definitely say hi. But I will fix things in just a moment. So, Carly, if you could go ahead and speak for a little bit.
Yes, Rajiv is Mr. Fix It over here. But that was awesome. I feel very energized after doing that. I just can't believe this is real. Like, this is so amazing. And we're here, we're doing it. Like, this is so important and exciting. And, like, oh my gosh, like, we are both podcast noobs. We have not done this before.
To say the least.
To say the least. No, Virgie was literally a master evil genius over there with the streaming services. But I mean, if I were going to make a podcast, this would be it. This is everything that I am. This is everything that I care about. And like I said, these are my people. So, like, let's make a podcast for the people. I'm here for it. And I'm so excited. We literally have the longest list of prospective guests that we would like to bring on the show. It's like literally never ending. We could be making this podcast forever. And that makes me so happy. This is just the beginning of something very exciting. So,
Definitely.
so glad everyone's here.
I
Thank you
am
for joining
super
us.
glad that everybody is here. And definitely now I fixed the chat, so if you want to chat, we can definitely answer
Yeah.
any questions that you have. Um, Holly, thank you very much for joining. Let me click the fancy button so we can at least see your magic ghost come on screen. Ooh. Wanted to make sure that that happened, of course. It's Halloween. We got to be festive, right?
Happy Halloween, everyone.
Happy Halloween. And of course, because this part will probably is live, obviously, and will probably be there before the election. If you have not voted, go vote. I don't. I mean, if you're in the U.S., of course. I don't care like who you're voting for, how you're voting. Just go do it. Part will probably. So, um, I think what I wanted to do also was just like talk a little bit about our plans for the podcast moving forward. Just because it's like this is the first episode. We're just picking up steam. We're trying to get ourselves, like used to doing all of this stuff. Because
Right?
again, podcast noobs, both of us. So we will be, stumbling our way through this and trying to figure it out. But I think that that's what's really cool about this, is right, because we are trying to create a space for people. We're trying to create a place for people just to that we think didn't exist or that we think that people needed, and that's why we're happy that you all are here. If you haven't actually seen the full podcast itself, it will be going live soon. I don't want to give a timeline because I don't know how hard it is to transfer it over to like Spotify or something like that, but it will be up. Whether it's before the election or not, I don't know, which is why we didn't talk about that during this podcast. Um, but in future podcasts, I'm sure we'll talk about it. We're trying to stream. We're trying to stream maybe like every weekish or every other week. Definitely make a podcast every other week. And there's so many ideas out there, just so many. I think we have like a list of like 15 or 20 already.
Yes. But we'd love to hear from you. I want to know what everyone else is thinking because we are just two minds, but we are so much stronger with all of you behind us and all your wonderful ideas and you know, your knowledge and your experience and your wisdom. And we really want to tap into that and just share it with the world because like I said, like honestly, if this helps one person out there like come to terms with their identity, be comfortable with sobriety, like just feeling like they're not alone, like that is enough for me. Just one person. But I know that there's so many more out there that really could benefit from just hearing us talk candidly about our experiences, just talk openly, like just knowing that like this is such an exciting place to be. Like I thought being sober meant I was destined for a boring life and it's like okay, that was just a lame story that I had in my head. My life is anything but boring. If anything, it's more exciting now and I get to remember all of it. So it's pretty dope. And coming to terms with your identity is so fun. Like I'm not I mean, yes, we're in a pandemic right now, so I'm not having as much fun as I want to be having, but like I'm pretty like I'm stoked for, all the self-discovery that I've been doing while I've been, in lockdown, but I'm just like really being able to spread my wings and fly. But I would not be where I am today without this group and just being able to come as I am and be accepted. And I'm not used to that. I was so used to conforming to what I thought I had to be, to just pretending like I was straight, pretending like I was this party girl, like that was enough for me. And it's like this person that I am today was the person that I always wanted to be. I just like didn't know how to get to her. Now that I'm here, like I'm ready to share that with the world and help others get to become the people that they know that they're destined to be too.
For sure. By the way, hi Hannah. Thanks very much for chatting. Welcome. And a
Hey.
couple other people that might be still here. I think that that's the beauty of this, right? Is that this can be so flexible and just something that we ourselves can create. And of course, for those who are either watching right now or you're seeing this later on Patreon or something like that, like you also have an opportunity to help us shape what this is. Again, this is episode one of who knows how many.
Be
And we're
determined.
only two people, so we're just trying to figure out like ideas. And even though it might be just like an every other week type of thing for now, this could be more frequent. We could have more guests. We could be changing the format of this. This could be anything. And the nice thing is that you could have the opportunity to actually like be a part of that. And you do not have to just be somebody who is contributing financially if that's something that you can't do right now. I know, I mean, it's the pandemic. It is currently a shaky economic time. Like, I totally get that. Just by watching, you're helping. Just by subscribing, you're helping. Just by sharing this, you're helping. Of course, that isn't to minimize our financial support based on Patreon folks, because that is also very helpful because that pays for things like everything you see here and for us to be able to create this kind of stuff. But anyway, thanks Hannah for joining. You free to stay as long as you like, and anybody else who might be here, feel free to come join in with the chat as well.
Amazing. Are there any questions that came through the chat or just?
So far, nothing. The nice thing is we have had some friendly faces come in.
Hey, friendly faces. That feels,
Yeah,
oh, thank you for being here. That's so nice.
it was definitely really nice. I think there's some stuff happening on Discord as well. I haven't had a chance to check because we're
There.
looking at this right now. Yeah,
Whew, this is
someday we'll
so
figure it out.
fun.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, I want to do this all the time, Rajiv.
I would say let's slow our roll.
No, I'm like always, yes. We will go at a slow and steady pace, but this is so much fun. Like just coming here and just being off the cuff with you. I'm so glad that we put this together. I'm so glad that you're the mastermind behind all the streaming and all the crazy tech stuff.
It's all good. I'm glad it just worked. Like the fact is that we had a podcast and that it actually went live and that people are
Existed.
seeing this. Like I'm like, phew.
Yes, now we get to relax and enjoy our Halloween evening.
Right, totally. What are you doing anything for Halloween?
I am. Was invited to a party at my friend's apartment, so it's very small. I'm still nervous about it, but I did go out today and I was determined. I was like, okay, I'm gonna find a mask that matches my costume.
What
And
are
I
you dressing up
did.
as?
I'm dressing up as a handmaid from
Oh,
Handmaid's
okay, right.
Tale.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what yes. So I got this red mask.
yeah. Amazing.
It's
That
like
is
the
so
mask kind of goes with the like they wear a mask in the show. So
got it.
it's
I
kind
haven't
of
seen it.
goes with the costume. Oh, okay. It's a very good show. It's very intense. I don't know if I would recommend watching it during the pandemic times, but
That's mostly why I haven't watched it right now because I'm like we kind of live in a dystopia in a way. So
we literally do. So I don't recommend it for right now, but it's a good show.
who
Yeah,
knows?
I'm
Maybe
heading
in a
over
few
there
months.
later. Maybe. Fingers crossed. My
Who
friend's
knows?
invitation, yeah, very into it, is a Ouija board inspired invite.
That's amazing. Who is your
Yeah.
friend that had like the time and the energy to be able to put this together?
I think it was really just one of those like distractions from the end of the world kind of a thing. So really just threw herself into this party.
Well, I mean, I
Uh,
understand that. I threw that myself into this, so
yes, look how much good has come from it. My thing though is I'm not going to a party of sober people. Like they're my friends from college who still drink. I'm fairly certain I will be the only sober one there. So can definitely talk about navigating life as a sober person and having to deal with that and
with regular
you know
people, quote unquote, like
the normies,
right.
the norm. So yeah, I find that I'm the designated driver a lot.
Ugh.
But I would rather make sure my friends get home safe, and especially on like holidays and stuff when Uber prices are like out the window,
My
like
God,
I'm
yeah,
like, okay,
seriously.
well, leave the tips in the back seat for me. Like I'll drive you all home. So yeah, that's my Halloween plan. So I gotta get ready in a little bit. But what are you gonna do tonight?
Well, uh, some like unfortunate news, but my sister hasn't been feeling well and she saw me yesterday, so I'm like hermetically
Oh
sealing myself.
no!
So if anything, I'll do something virtual. Well, right now I'm doing this podcast, so that's great. So that's at least a
Yeah.
space, or I guess the
We
post
could
podcast, the secret behind the
always,
scenes after podcast.
yes. You could always start up a game of Among Us, since that's very
Literally,
popular.
like if you wanted to play, we could stream right now. I have it all set up. Like it's all ready to go.
Oh my God, this is such a surprise! Yes. Oh, except for I don't have it on my. I mean, I have Stream, or I have. Okay, I would have to figure out how to do it for my
if
computer.
you join just on your phone, that's fine because this will stream for people who are watching the stream. You can join on your phone and just play. Also, you shouldn't be watching the stream just in case like I end up as imposter.
Yeah, okay, I'm not watching the stream. Don't worry. I was too nervous. I was like, all I can focus on is the one thing. So yeah, that'd be really fun.
Sure. I mean, either
Do
way,
that.
we gotta go until 5:30, right? So
I'm here for that. I'm also here for the question discussion if you'd like to do
Yes,
that.
of course. If there's any questions that do come in, like do let us know. It'll pop up on this side over here for people watching on Twitch and YouTube, and for people who are just watching this after the fact, you'll see it on screen. Um, well, actually, I have a question for you, Carly. I know that you felt like it went all right, but like, what were you feeling before we all got started, and just how do you feel? How do you feel like, and how did that change really by the end of this first episode?
I was very nervous. I felt like I was like talking like a robot in the beginning a little bit. So you were so great. You were like cool as a cucumber and throwing the questions back to me. And so I was like, okay, just be like Rajiv, get on your level, like calm it down. Yeah. So like you said, like just trying to get everything that we wanted to say out there and making sure it made sense and that we are clear about who we are and what we're doing. Um, yeah, I feel like that we just had to, rip the band-aid off and do episode 1 and then learn how to communicate again.
Because that's a skill that has definitely been lost over the past 6 months.
I'm like officially socially awkward in public, I will say. I don't
Oh well,
know
I
how
mean,
to.
like par for the course for me. So
So we have that in common now.
you can join the club. I mean, even for Zoom
Yeah.
stuff, like it's always people who are talking just to a group, and it's like one person at a time. And so you're not necessarily having the normal thing where you're just kind of bouncing ideas off each other, trying to keep a rhythm
Right?
between two people. Like, so
Yes.
I totally get it.
Also, I feel like when I'm in public, I do this now. Like I clap in front of myself because like
Just four
that's what
people,
you do
like, good job.
what you do
You've
on Zoom. Like
completed a full sentence.
yeah, I don't know. Like I'm just like, oh yeah, like when anything good happens on Zoom, you're just like automatically clapping like to
Sure.
yourself and your little things. And I'm like, oh my God, that's not a normal thing that people used to do before this pandemic started. But okay.
Are you one of those Zoom people that like can only focus on their own video the entire time, or are you somebody that actually looks at everybody else?
Oh, I feel like I'm reading everyone's like that's very me though. Like I'm very much like making sure everyone's good, reading
Mhm.
people's body language, like looking at who's muted and who's not muted. So I try to like, moderate the what's going on in the party and make sure everyone's good. It's cool. I like putting it on gallery view and being able to see everyone and like when I like announce like exciting news, like seeing everyone seeing everyone clapping in their little screen for me or like, like their faces, facial expressions. I mean, it's not the same as being in person, but it'll suffice. And like I'm so 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 excited for when all of us can meet up in person again, like at a real event, like inside at a place with not as much fear
With no
when
masks,
it's
that'd be
safe.
nice. Like,
They'll probably will be mad. I don't know. We don't
I
know
mean,
what the
no, no,
future
no, no, not
holds,
for
but
now. Obviously, I'm saying like the
oh,
15 years or whatever it's gonna take to get there.
yeah, I don't know. I just think about like how much we've like learned about each other, and it's like so weird that some of us have like literally never even met in person.
That's so true, actually. I mean, we've met socially distanced, and that helps because, like seeing a person just over Zoom in like one angle and that's about it is it's fine. Like you can at least see their face, you can hear how they sound, like just kind of get a sense of their personality. But like meeting them in person is just an entirely different thing. Because I feel like it also just it meets the whole person, right? So you end up seeing just everything about them.
Yeah, right. And I feel like this is doing it the opposite way of like I get to know everything about you, but then I get to like know who you are as a person, like physically in front of me last. Like that's that's not normal. Like how
No, it
you would
isn't.
normally meet a person.
Yeah, it's a little
Mm.
bit different.
So
It is. I don't know. I kind of like it like that in a way because, like, at least people, certainly in the dating context, I'll tell you that, like, because uh,
yes,
people are a little less shallow when they're just trying to figure out who you are, and then you've got them hook, line, and sinker, and then you can kind of meet them in person.
exactly. I like that. So funny. Too, like, I don't know, I just think about the future of what our events are gonna be like. But even when we do start to have in-person events again, like I'm loving the online commitment to just like signing on somewhere from the comfort of your own home, from the comfort of your own pajamas. Like nobody can see what's going on like underneath like right about here. So how I like it's so much less of a commitment to just like, oh, I'm already at home. Like then instead of like getting ready and driving somewhere and like worrying about everything else that goes into like a night out during the week. So I think no matter what happens, that we'll keep up the virtual meetups ongoing forever as long as we can,
I certainly
because it's
would
so much
not.
more accessible.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's so much more accessible, I think.
I definitely agree. Certainly for me because like my work schedule is a little bit silly. So like Wednesdays at 6 o'clock is really early for me. Uh, and so like being able to just also just click on a button and immediately be in front of, you know, 10, 20, 30 people or whatever it might be, that's awesome. And it's people that I know now. It's people that we have like some sort of relationship with. We hang out and chat on the Discord and like anything like that. Like that's it's just awesome to be able to create that community and have that just all work out at the click of a button. Because otherwise, it's like, all right, wait, I got to get a lift. All right, I got to go all the way down to like Humboldt Park or something.
And like, yeah, I mean, it's just a lot. I mean, it's not perfect. Meeting up in person isn't perfect either because, you can't always facilitate like the perfect like, matchup of people or like activities and stuff like that. But same thing, like just signing on to a Zoom, like we're trying to be creative in the things that we talk about. We try to be creative in the way that we do the breakout rooms and
Hmm.
try to give some of that like one-on-one or like two on two individual time with other people and kind
Sure,
of mix and match. So, we're doing the best we can and it's working out pretty well and it's really fun to see relationships that have formed and continue to form as we keep doing this.
that's right. And I think that that's great because like something like this, I don't think could have even possibly happened before like the internet age. Like I'm trying to think
Oh
back.
yeah.
I was talking with somebody just recently, and we were just talking through like, what if this pandemic had happened in the 90s? And like, what would have
What
happened?
would we have done? Oh my gosh.
Like, I feel like we would have just been, uh, phoning our friends at like a specific time, and then meeting up on a very specific time at a very specific place, having to print out MapQuest to be able to get there.
Oh man. Wow, what a throwback.
Totally a throwback. I mean,
I never saw that. I can't even think about like I don't know. It's like I can barely conceptualize the pandemic happening right now as opposed to what it would be like happening in the 90s.
That's
Oh
totally true.
man.
Have you been one of those people who have like picked up any, pandemic hobbies and then just stuck with it? And actually stuck with it, not the, I picked up sourdough baking and I dropped it like a month in and that's about it. And it's totally okay if no, because
Probably.
like normal human beings have a lot of things to do.
The group? I mean, the group. The group is my baby, my pandemic baby. Uh, I mean, I do the social media for the group, so I've had fun with that. When I think about, like, what's my creative outlet, it's, like, more digital, creativity, like, I really like having an eye for, like, fonts and what
Hmm.
looks good and colors and stuff like that. So I guess that, I don't know, it's not very exciting.
No, I think it's exciting. I mean, I like that kind of stuff. I mean, obviously, I put like the background and stuff like that together. By the way, follow us on Instagram
Yes,
or any other
so
sort of thing.
good. Yes.
And so like there's like a lot really out there. And I think doing things digitally is great because it allows you a creative outlet. You don't have to like find any sort of physical materials. You don't have to go outside really, especially when like there's hotspots or right now because things are kind of like flaring up again. I think it just makes it that much easier to just like I'm gonna shift gears and then just now start clicking on the computer to make things instead of
Yeah,
like just talk with people or be at work or whatever.
right? Because Zoom fatigue is real. And like you're working at a computer all day and then like trying to make your fun activity on the computer or on your phone, like my eyes are like crisscrossed, like can't even see the screen anymore. I'm like, okay, time to put the phone down. Time to close the computer. But it's hard. It is hard.
Yeah, I
What
mean,
about you?
we're all trying to survive our way through this, right? So, month by
Yes, we
month,
are.
day by day, week by week, whatever that may look like. Uh, Hi there, Julie. Yes, Zoom fatigue is definitely a real thing. And I so at work for me at least, it's like back to back, so you don't even have like a break in between anything. So you can't even like stand up or like walk to your next thing. So that's definitely been adding to the Zoom fatigue, at least for me and my coworkers and stuff like that. Because sometimes you spend like 4, 5, 6 hours a day just basically on there.
Wow, it's a lot.
I mean, yeah, so be it. But it happens. I'd much rather actually have
Without a
meetings in person like that in instances where I do have back to backs like that.
get that. Well, what besides this, what has been your like outlet for the pandemic?
Um, so many things I feel like. I'm not one of those people who tends to get bored if they're just sitting around. A lot of my like own hobbies and activities are a bit more just internally focused or individually focused. I don't share all that much with a bunch of other people, so or it doesn't require other people many times. Um, and so like for things that I've been doing, like I picked up a new instrument. I had it shipped back in December from India, and it's like a really cool string instrument. Like I've never played a string instrument. I play some other instruments that are more woodwinds, and a couple of percussive instruments, but this is the first one that I've been able to do it with like actual strings. And just going through the process of like relearning scales or like relearning how to learning how to hold things, learning how to bow things. That's all totally new to me, and I think that that was super interesting to me right now. I can't do that right now just because of personal situations, but at least while I was doing that, Julie, at least in the chat, is saying like, yeah, me too, yoga and hiking for me. Absolutely. So even if there are more solitary pursuits, you can just do yoga in front of your TV or your computer or something like that, and you can just kind of like look a little bit inwards. And then same with hiking that you're also mentioning. There are zero mountains here in Chicago, but I mean, wherever you're going hiking, like I'm sure it must be great.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, during the summertime, I was biking a whole lot. I would just go to the lake and just ride down as far as I could and then just turn around and come back. It's a little harder now with winter. But I do actually have some exciting news about that. For my graduation present, my parents got me a Peloton and it's coming in a
Nice.
so
Hey, is it somewhere around in your
I
house? Like,
probably gonna put it like right back here. And I'm so excited. Like I was pretty much freaking out of what I was gonna do all winter without a gym. So just gonna be on my bike all day, every day.
thankfully, the gym that I have is one right across the street from me, so it's not that far. And two, they actually are taking appointments. You have to take your temperature, like you're forcing masks, and so there's like fewer people there. There's like forced social distancing. So I'm feeling okay about going there, um, which my God, I definitely need it, especially like during the winter because it's rough. Julie on
Yeah.
YouTube is saying, "Oh my gosh, that's awesome, Carly! So exciting! So definitely you have to put this behind you." I mean, we can
Ah,
try to get a sponsorship by Peloton, I guess.
right. We need the LaCroix sponsorship first and foremost.
Oh man,
That is like
seriously. I think give it a couple months. I have a good feeling about it.
yes. I think so many good things are going to come out of this, and I'm super, super excited to just open the floor and share it with the amazing people that are in our group and just really bring these stories to life and let them be heard. Like, I'm tired of being on the fringes of society. Like, we need to be front and center here. Like, we are the people that, like, the people need to hear.
I think that's, I mean, more power to us, right? Like to try to make that happen. And I think the really cool thing is, especially with new media, like things like Twitch or podcasts or YouTube or whatever, like you can actually find those people no matter where they are in the entire world. Like we had 100 people or something like that or more coming to the in-person events, but like there are many more people who are like that across the rest of the US. There are many more people like that who might be in other countries or may not even thought about the idea that somebody who is sober could also be queer or somebody queer could also be sober. Like those are maybe ideas that we're introducing to people for the very first time, which I think is awesome and something that I cannot sing the praises of the digital age highly enough.
Right? I know. I'm super excited for this to get out there and just to see who it reaches and who's listening and who this resonates with and have them come join our group and just to be able to open the floor and see some new faces and just like find our people even more and just like grow and really expand it like because I know there's more people out there like you said and to be able to reach them like this is the way we got to do it being all stuck at home all of us looking at our phones all day every day taking in new media like we got to make sure this is getting in the hands of the people that need it.
Absolutely. Julie from YouTube is also saying, agreed. I'm so glad that you guys are doing this. Y'all are awesome. Thanks for your dedication. So thank you, Julie.
Thanks, Julie. That's so awesome. Yeah, I mean, I know Julie from high school, and Julie knows me from high school and what I was like, and I was very closeted and very straight and very people pleasing, and thought that I needed to be somebody that I had like I don't even know, just like formed from like what I saw on TV and like what I thought I was supposed to be like, and rejecting all of that though like it's very difficult to go against society's like very strong hold on everyone's minds really and having to unlearn and undo years and years of these ideas and figuring out like what actually sits well with me and what actually doesn't and if you don't take the time to do that it's very easy to just like fall into this like I don't know, like where you're not awake and you're just kind of going through the motions of life and you're not living for yourself because you don't even know who you are. So like it's very bold to go on a journey of self-discovery and if you come back up and you figure out sober and queer is the way for you, like yes, it's not easy to do.
And, well, we're making a spot for you. So if that's the case, come
Yeah.
join us.
Come to the table, come talk with us. So yeah, right? Because like once you reject kind of everything that you've ever known or everything that you were taught to be growing up, like you need to find the other people that understand, the other people that have done the same thing, that are, talking about this stuff because that is the stuff that saved me is being in rooms with people who are talking about the things that I was thinking about and like had done it and like basically reached their hand out and was like, come with us, we'll show you the way. Like
And
without that,
yeah, I mean, we
no.
are standing on the shoulders of giants, right? In some way, shape, or form. Whether that's like through the sober route or the queer route or like even the tech route or the social route, like any and
Oh,
all of those things. I mean, it's great to be able to like actually keep pushing it forward in whatever way that we want to, because like that's something that we can choose to make happen in the way that we want.
totally. And I think just like being sober as a millennial, like talking about that, I could talk about that obviously forever because not many millennials get sober, are sober. I mean, not the, I mean, the majority at least. So to be, and a lot of the recovery stuff that I listened to or like sought out when I was very newly sober was people that were a lot older than me. And
Mm,
I really felt like the only 20 like 4-year old in the world that was trying to get sober and it was very isolating so like to just like be out there and be like this is it's not even just like okay to be sober like it is the greatest thing that you could be and life is so much better this way and just to hear people talking about it in such a positive light and it not being like a sentence to your life to be boring like I was just that these are the things I was so fearful of and I was so fearful of like losing my friends and it's like
mm.
you realize that like those are not even your friends anyway and that there's like for every friend that you lose there's another person out there that is so much better suited to like care about who you actually are but you don't know that until you like close some of these chapters and it can be painful but what's waiting for you on the other side is like so affirming.
And I think that's really nice because like there's like I think, especially as you're growing up, friends are many times just out of convenience because like you're in the same classes, you're in the same city, you're in the same thing. I think that also happens once you like get into college and after, after people come together and they're friends because they're drinking together, or they just are. That's
Mhm.
about the only thing that tends to like link them together. And so if you
Oh,
take that away, suddenly all of a sudden the people that you thought were your friends no longer are, because that one thing that was holding you together, like chewing gum and thread, somehow or other doesn't exist. And so no longer.
right.
But I think that's really nice because Julie on YouTube is saying it certainly feels very freeing being able to just be yourself and being accepted for being who you are. Um, she also says, yes, Carly, it feels nice being able to connect with others that have a similar lifestyle with being sober. And I think that's the really cool thing, is because like this is also trying to just be like a talk podcast, talk show, like interviewing type of thing, just a hangout space for people who are trying to be just more authentic, whatever that may be. And it happens to show up as queer and sober for us, and maybe for you as well, if you're listening or watching it. But like it, just authenticity is kind of like the name of the game. And I really like how you put it, Carly.
Thank you. Yeah, and I totally agree. Like that's the thing too. It's like, yes, you like the way that you come to be sober is so unique and individual, but like what we were talking about earlier too is just like knowing that you get to come into this space and that we're just not going to be talking about drinking or alcohol. Like it's so refreshing because in society I feel like I'm dodging bullets like that all the time, or like I'm just trying to like I don't know. I feel well, it's a little different for me now because I feel like I hang out with so many sober
Hmm.
people, but it's so stark when I go back and hang out with people that are not sober because they just like look at me like I have 10 heads and like I'm the crazy one. So like to be able to just come into a space and have everybody be on the same page and just knowing like that I'm safe here, like, and just having people genuinely in the group being like, we want to know who you really are. Like we want to know that. And like for me to be able to express that, I have to know what that is. And to even know what that is, I have to like go on my own self-discovery journey and like, figure out for myself like what do I like, what don't I like, who am I, like what resonates with me, like what am I passionate about, like these hard-hitting questions that like when you're so like entrenched in the drinking world, like you're not having these conversations, you're not thinking about these things necessarily or having a supportive system behind you to like really like root for you and really want you to, find those things out about yourself and then succeed in whatever it is that you want. Like nobody is choosing this life for you. Like you get to choose for yourself, and like having that supportive like friend system and community behind you, like it makes such a difference. At least it has for me.
It really does. And I mean, we should probably, I'm mentally like cataloging like another 30, 40 ideas or whatever.
So many.
One of
Like
those
as we
should,
just been talking here,
huh?
spitballing in my head.
No,
I'm on
yes.
the same page.
And I think one of the cool ideas that I'm kind of coming up with is maybe let's talk about, because philosophically, from my own like cultural background, there is like a culture of not drinking, and it is tied to exactly what you just talked about just trying to like ask those philosophical questions of yourself. And I think that would be a really cool topic to talk about, because like not that many people even know that much about other cultures outside of themselves. So it's another perspective. Like whether you follow it or not is totally different, but like some people thought of it, some people found it helpful, so let's share it. Why not?
Yeah, I'm here for that. So cool. I think this is awesome. And I really appreciate that it's you and I, like, and who else we're ever gonna bring on. Like, it just we are getting so many intersections and different things that we are both really well versed on, and being able to bring that here and just share our knowledge with our fan base and with our listeners. So, this is the start of something so exciting and great.
Yeah, I really think so. And again, this is why this first episode was just mostly around like the it was like a meta conversation, if that makes sense. Because it was just like, all
So,
right, what is queer sober social? Like, how do we define this box? Like, what is going on here? Like, what can you really expect? Where are you actually doing this stuff? Easy kind of like first episode type of thing to go through. And that's why we're always open to everybody's ideas. If you're listening or watching to this after the fact, feel free to share that with us, and we'll definitely try to make sure that we are responding to them or answering those questions live. You can feel a part of this process too, which is nice. Um, also makes our lives a little bit easier, frankly.
yeah. I mean, we are not like we're two talking heads, but we are not like the end all be all. Like we want like every single person is so unique that like there's unlimited directions that we could go with this. So you want to know what you want to know so that we can give that to you.
Absolutely. And especially as we're kind of like figuring out what this needs to be, figuring out what you guys are looking for, feel free to let us know that as well. So not only just about topics to talk about, but just like what you like or what you don't like about this. We're fully open to it. Um, you will hurt my feelings a little bit, but that's okay if you say something bad. So don't say something too mean. But you know.
Active criticism, please. But also compliments. Compliments are widely accepted. 5-star ratings.
The thumbs up, the follows, the tips or whatever, like all the fancy things that you can do nowadays on all these platforms. Yes.
All of it. Give it to us. Validate us.
Yeah, of course. Well, in the last like 15, 20 minutes, do you want to jump into a round of Among Us?
Yes, I do.
And if you are still watching,
And
you can
anyone else
actually join us live. So I'll show the code, and then you can join us on there. And then like somehow stop watching the stream after you join, so that way you don't cheat, because that's not cool. But you know. So if you don't happen to have it, or you haven't seen literally everybody else on Twitch or on YouTube playing it, you can download it for free on your phone, or it's only $5 on Steam. So if you want to just quickly grab that, grab your phone, download it, come back and join us. Give me like 2 to 3 minutes just to like open everything up and then see if this works. Because again, streaming noobs as well. Not only podcasting news. Yeah,
great.
Julie from YouTube says best hosts ever, 5 stars. Well, I won't be able to join, but I will watch. So yeah, totally. If you want to watch but not join, that's also cool too. We'll make it public, so we'll kind of like go live again, and have everybody out there. I will try to add our videos on there, so you can kind of see our reactions, or at least see both of us at the same time, or at least hear both of us. And then I'll make sure that you can actually see the game stuff. But that requires about 30 to 45 seconds at least. So while I am filling time while clicking in the background, is there anything else that you might want to share with everybody who's watching still, or maybe watching this after the fact, Carly?
Thank you for being here. I am super grateful. I just am so happy. Like genuinely, this feels so correct, and feels so like where we need to be in the world. These are the stories that we need to be talking about. And of course, like I've never put a podcast together before. I've never done this before. I haven't shared my story publicly. But you know, like I'm excited to, because I know that there's so many people out there that are struggling that could benefit from hearing it. And just thinking about how can I make the podcast that I literally so badly needed when I was younger, and how to make that today. Just really organizing the wisdom that I've gained through my life experience, through going to grad school for mental health counseling. Like I so ready to, you know, build something amazing, to continue to build on top of something amazing that we already have going on, which is just our core Chicago like community, and just making it bigger and badder and more badass, and collecting amazing people's stories and just like elevating them, and you know, just putting it out there. Like, yeah, it's scary, of course. Bye. Good night.